dear students, welcome back to the online classes of Financial Accounting 5. This session onwards, I am going to start with a new chapter, that is valuation of shares. This chapter is very easy, and also it is very important from the point of view of examination. You have to concentrate on both the theory questions as well as problems of this chapter. So let us begin the session now. So here we need to first understand what is the meaning of valuation. Valuation is nothing but it is the process of finding out or knowing the present worth of a company. Then, what is the meaning of valuation of shares? Valuation of shares is the process of finding out or knowing the present worth of company share. So here, let me come again. Valuation is nothing but it is the process of finding out the present worth of company itself, okay, company as a whole. But valuation of shares is the process of knowing or finding out the present worth or present value of company share. Now, how do we find out the present worth or present value of company share? Whenever we plan to go for shopping, we try to find out today what is available at cheaper price and what is available at higher price. Now, how do we find out what is costly and what is cheaper? We try to compare the price of the product with that of its value, and with the help of that we can find out whether the product is sold at a cheaper price or it is sold at a higher price. If you're getting confused with the terminologies price and value, then let us understand it very easily by going through the words of Mr. Warren Buffett, who is one of the most successful investors in the world. He says, price is what you pay and the value is what you get. Let us consider buying a product. If you are paying higher price in return of which you are getting a product with lower value, as in this example. Here the product is priced at 999 rupees, but the value of which might be only rupees 500. Okay, here the value is 500 but the product is priced at 999 rupees. Then it is a case of overvaluation. This product is considered to be overvalued because you are paying a price which is higher than the value of the product. Okay, so let us consider the other way round. If you are paying a lesser amount but you are getting a product with higher value, as in this case, here the product is priced at 699 but the value of which might be rupees 1000. Okay, so here you are paying a price which is lesser when compared to the value of the product which you are getting in return. Same thing happens in the share market as well. If a share is priced at rupees 1000 or if it is traded at rupees 1000 today, it does not mean that the value of share is rupees 1000. It can be lesser than that or it can be more than that. We have considered the present trading price to be 1000 rupees, but the actual worth or the present worth of that particular share might be 800 rupees, which means that in order to acquire the shares worth rupees 800, you have to pay price of rupees 1000. So it is a case of overvaluation. Okay, on the other hand, the trading price is rupees 1000, you have to pay 1000, but the actual value or the present worth of that share might be 1200. So in order to acquire the share worth rupees 1200, you have to pay just 1000. So it is a case of undervaluation. Okay, so these concepts, whether the share is undervalued or overvalued, it plays important role while taking an investment decision. Let us suppose that you have some 1 lakh rupees and you want to invest in the share of a good company. So what you should do, you have to make some fundamental analysis. That is, you should try to find out whether the share is undervalued or it is overvalued. For that purpose, we need to undertake valuation of share, wherein we are going to find out the fair value or the actual value of that particular share so that we can compare the value with that of its present trading price. By that, we can understand whether the particular share is undervalued or it is overvalued. On that basis, we can take our investment decision, that is, to buy the share of that particular company or not. Here, let me give a real example. If you check the website of NSE, National Stock Exchange, today Reliance company is traded at 1957.69. So this is today's trading price. But the actual intrinsic worth of that particular share is 1025.16, which means that Reliance company share is priced higher when compared to the actual worth. So we need to consider here whether the price is undervalued or it is overvalued. In this case, price is higher than the price here is how much? 1957, but the actual value is 1025. So here the price is more than the value, so it is a case of overvaluation. Then let us consider the other example. If you check the price of Tata Motors, today it is trading at 184.80. So this is the today's trading price. But the actual worth or the intrinsic worth of that share is 310.45, which means that a share of Tata Motors is priced lower than its value. So here the value is more than the price. So it is a case of undervaluation. So whenever we take the investment decision, we have to make analysis like this. We have to compare the value with that of its trading price to know that particular share is overvalued or undervalued. Based on that, we can take our investment decision. So with this introduction, let us take up the first concept which we have to study in this chapter, that is meaning of valuation of shares. As we just now discussed, valuation of shares is the process of knowing or finding out the value of company share. The share valuation is done on the basis of quantitative techniques. Okay, so whatever the techniques we use for the purpose of valuation, it is quantitative in nature, and the share value will depend on the basis of demand and supply. In simple words, valuation of share is the process by which either we find out intrinsic value, or we find out market value, or we find out fair value of the share of a company. So it is a process of finding out either intrinsic value or market value or fair value. So these are the three methods of valuation of shares. The first one is finding out the intrinsic value, that is intrinsic value method. The second one is finding out the market value, nothing but market value method. And the third one is finding out the fair value, nothing but fair value method. Then the next concept here is need for the valuation of shares, in the sense under what circumstances we have to calculate the value of share. The first one is at the time of amalgamation or absorption for adjusting the rights of the shareholders. So whenever the amalgamation of companies happens, or one company is absorbing the business of other company, in those cases whenever they want to adjust the rights of the shareholders in the new company, they have to value the shares of the old companies. Okay. Second one, when loan is granted on the security of shares. So here when the company wants to obtain loan on the basis of giving shares as a security, that is pledging of shares, so in that case also we have to calculate the value of shares. The third one, when preference shares or debentures are converted into equity shares. If at all a company has issued convertible preference shares or convertible debentures, after a certain period they will be converted into equity shares. So while converting the preference shares into equity shares, or while converting the debentures into equity shares also, we have to value the shares. Then the fourth one, when the large block of shares is purchased so as to acquire controlling interest in the company. So this is relating to holding company and subsidiary company relationship. So here whenever the holding company wants to acquire large block of assets in the subsidiary company, then we need to value the shares of subsidiary company. Then the next one, when equity shareholders are to be compensated on the acquisition of their shares by the government under the scheme of nationalization. So if at all a company has to be nationalized, the shares of those companies will be acquired by government. So what is the compensation to be given to the private equity holders? So that is the public who were holding the shares earlier by the government. So what is the compensation to be given by the government to the shareholders? So in that case also we have to calculate the value of shares. So these are the various circumstances under which we have to go for valuation of shares. Then factors affecting the valuation of shares. Okay, so there are, while valuing the shares we have to consider so many factors. What are they? Let us see. The first one is nature of business. Second one, demand and supply for the shares. Then government policy, past performance of the company, growth prospectus. What are their plans for the future? Okay, growth prospectus of the company, the management of the company, the economic climate, then accumulated reserves, prospects of issuing the bonus shares or right shares, then dividend declaration, whether it is interim dividend or final dividend. So these are the factors which have an effect while valuing the shares of a company. Then next concept is methods of valuation of shares. So here we find three methods. Okay, the first one is called asset backing method, or which is also called net asset method, or which is also called intrinsic value method. The second one is yield method, which is also called dividend yield method or market value method. The third one is dual or fair value method. All these three methods are very very important. You will have questions also, as well as they may ask you briefly explain the various methods of valuation of shares. Okay, so you have to write all these methods along with the brief explanation. So let us take up the first method now. How do we calculate the value of shares under asset backing method, or which is also called net asset method or intrinsic value method? So under this method, that is intrinsic value method or net asset method, we have to calculate what is the net asset available to the equity shareholders in order to calculate the value of share. So here we use the formula value of share is equal to, or intrinsic value of the share is equal to, net asset available to the equity shareholders divided by number of equity shares. So here we need to first find out what is the net assets available to the equity shareholders. Okay, and here the value of shares are found out on the presumption that, or on the assumption that, the company is going into liquidation. If at all a company goes into liquidation, what are the procedures we have to follow? We have to, what are the assets available with the company, they have to realize it. Okay, all the assets have to be realized, and whatever the liabilities to outsider which are due, whether it is short term or long term, that has to be paid off. After paying the liabilities, if any amount remains, that will be first used for returning the amount due to the preference shareholders, and ultimately whatever the balance remaining, that is considered as net asset available to the equity shareholders. Okay, that is taken as the base to calculate the value of shares. So while calculating the net asset available, we have to first write all the assets available with the company. So this is similar to the second method of valuation of goodwill. While calculating the capital employed, how do we first write all the assets available at their market value and then deduct the liabilities? Same way here also, but with little change. Here, as we are assuming that the company is going to liquidation, we have to see that all the assets are realized. When I say realizable asset, even the non-trading investment or intangible assets have to be considered in the case of valuation of shares under this method. So assets are taken at their actual values, that is at present market value. If at all the company goes into liquidation, they want to sell their asset, what is the amount they can realize today? Okay, so that is the present market value, not at their book values. If the present market value is not available for any asset, then we have to assume that the book value itself is the market value, and we have to consider the book value. Otherwise, if the market value is available, then you have to consider the market value. But we should not consider fictitious assets, like preliminary expenses are excluded, because they are those assets, fake asset, which cannot be realized. You cannot sell preliminary expenses and get money. So fictitious assets have to be excluded. Other than that, whether it is a tangible asset, intangible asset, non-trading investment, anything for that matter, all those assets which can be realized if at all the company goes into liquidation, those have to be considered. From that total, we are going to deduct all the liabilities. Okay, whether it is stated in the books or not. There might be some liability which is not shown as a liability in the liability side of the balance sheet. So far it is not recorded in the books of account, but that liability may arise in the future. You have to take into consideration even those kind of liabilities. So here when I say liabilities, it is both short term and long term. So first we will be writing all the assets. From that we are going to deduct the liabilities. Okay, even the non-trading assets like investments or any other kind of non-trading assets should be included. Okay, then whatever the difference you get, that is called net asset available to all types of shareholders. From this, the amount payable to the preference shareholders have to be deducted. When I say amount payable to the preference shareholders, it can be their capital, preference share capital, or if they have to be redeemed at a premium, the what is the premium payable to them. Then if there is arrears of preference dividend, if it is a cumulative in nature, maybe for the last 2-3 years they have not paid the dividend. So if there is any arrears of preference dividend, even that should be paid off. After deducting this amount, that is the amount payable to the preference shareholders, whatever the amount remains, that is called net asset or net tangible asset available for the equity shareholders. You have to divide it by number of equity shares to get the intrinsic value of the shares. So I will show you the format in which this net assets available to the equity shareholders have to be calculated. So this is the format. At the beginning, we will be writing the assets at their market value. So all these are the asset, all realizable asset, including intangible asset, tangible asset, non-trading asset, then even the if there is any kind of prepaid expenses, something like that, it should also be included. Okay, from this total we are going to deduct the liabilities, both short term and long term. Even if some liability is not included in the book, it should be considered. So when you deduct the amount, you will get a balance which is called assets available to all types of shareholders. All types means both equity shareholders and preference shareholders. So you have to deduct here payment due to the preference shareholders. It can be their capital, it can be the arrears of preference dividend, or it can be the premium payable on redemption. So when you deduct this amount from the net asset available to all types of shareholders, you will have some balance, and that balance is called net asset available to equity shareholders. So when you divide this amount by number of equity shares, you will get the intrinsic value of share. So that is how we calculate the value of share under first method. Then coming to the second method, that is yield method or dividend yield method, or which is also called market value method. The value of share is determined on the basis of comparing expected rate of return with that of normal rate of return. So we need to understand these two terminologies. What is expected rate of return and what is normal rate of return? Expected rate of return is the average future maintainable profit for individual company, whereas the normal rate of return is the return expected from the industry in which particular company is engaged in. For example, the normal rate of return for an automobile industry is 10%. You have a company which is operating in the automobile industry and you have expected rate of return of 15%. So here the normal rate in the automobile industry is 10%. It is same for all the companies which are engaged in the automobile industry. So whether it is your company or some other's company, your competitor's company, whatever it is, the normal rate of return 10% is same for all the companies. There is one more concept, that is expected rate of return. So here the expected rate of return is the expected profit of your company for the future. How much profit you can earn for the future, that depends on your company. It is subject to the individual company. You may earn 15%. So your 15% expected rate of return is compared with the normal rate of return, which is common for the entire industry, to calculate the value of share under this method. So here we have to follow few steps to calculate the value of share. In the first step, we calculate average expected future profit, that is the profit available for equity shareholders. In the previous method, we calculated net asset available to the equity shareholders. Same way, here we are going to calculate what is the profit available for the equity shareholders. That is, what is the profit available which can be distributed among the equity shareholders as dividend. With the given profit, we are going to deduct the interest on debentures or interest on bank loan, etc. Okay. Then we will get a balance. From that, we are going to deduct the taxation. So that will be the profit available for all types of shareholders. From that, we are going to deduct the preference dividend, yearly dividend, whatever is payable to the preference shareholders. The remaining balance will be the profit available for the equity shareholders. That is what we are going to calculate in the first step. Expected future profit or the profit which are available for the equity shareholders. In the second step, that is calculation of expected rate of return, we want here what is the percentage of return. So expected rate of return is equal to expected profit available to the equity shareholders, that is what we calculate in the first step, divided by paid up equity share capital. So what is the paid up capital collected from the shareholders into 100. So when we apply this formula, we will get what is the expected rate of return. Then we are going to compare the expected rate of return with that of normal rate of return to calculate the value of share. The formula here would be value of share is equal to expected rate of return divided by normal rate of return into paid up value of one share. Okay, what is the paid up value of one share, that we are going to multiply to calculate the value of share. Okay, so this is the method which we follow to calculate the market value. Then coming to the third method, which is called dual method or fair value method. So this fair value method is a combination of first two methods, that is net asset method or intrinsic value method, and the second one market value method. So here, in order to calculate the fair value, we just take simple average between those two methods. Okay, so it is a combination of previous two methods. So here we use the formula fair value of share is equal to intrinsic value plus yield value divided by 2. We take the simple average. I'll tell you how to calculate that. Suppose under the net asset method, we get the value of share as rupees 10. On the other hand, under the second method, that is yield method, we get the value of share as 12. So how do we calculate the fair value? 10 plus 12 divided by 2, we get 11 as the fair value. So this is how we calculate the value of share under third method, that is fair value method. So this is regarding the theory aspects of various methods of valuation of shares. So let us take up few questions in the upcoming videos. Thank you for watching.